30 days ago, I set myself the challenge to post 300 pieces of content across all my social platforms to end the debate once and for all. Is quantity better than quality? In this video, I'm going to be breaking down not just my social media stats and my growth, but also my sales stats and how this actually impacted the income coming into my business. Because as enjoyable as it is getting lots of likes and followers, I actually care more about the profit in my business. I have all of the results right here on my computer, and I honestly think you are going to be shocked by what's decreased and what's increased in the last 30 days. I don't know if it's just because I'm approaching 30, but I feel like I've become very jaded by Instagram advice from not just gurus, but the head CEOs, the top dogs at platforms like Instagram and TikTok. I have been in the world of social media for 10 years now, and I feel like a lot of these platforms are really pushing the quantity as the best thing you can do to grow on social media. And I honestly believe from my experience that this notion, this tip that they're giving us comes with ulterior motives. They want us spending more time on their apps. And while I have always been someone who's like, yes, let's listen to Adam Mosseri because he's the head of Instagram, so he has the insights, I honestly don't know that I can believe these experts anymore.
Propaganda can do that.
That was actually a big part of this challenge, and wanting to actually get the data for myself and share it with you all, because I am so done with these platforms that are just trying to get all of this content out of us. So part of this challenge was, number one, testing out if increasing my posting frequency across multiple platforms made a difference. Another part of it is which platform was actually seeing growth and which one wasn't, to kind of make me reevaluate whether I did need Instagram, TikTok, Pinterest, YouTube, LinkedIn, like all of the things, or if I could narrow it down to my top platforms. And another part of this challenge was really to get me out of my comfort zone and build proper content systems to support me moving forward for the rest of the year with my business. And to help with that, I teamed up with Rella, which is an amazing content management system and also a scheduler. This is what has enabled me to go from posting on one platform to posting on like 5 different platforms in this challenge. The auto repurposing, the being able to auto post with a click of the button, has been a feature that I have been heavily relying on. But also there is so much power in having one system to manage your content, from your email list to your Instagram. Having it all in one place has made me work a lot more efficiently during this challenge. So as I go through this video, I'm going to share some sort of tips and insights and show you how I've used Rella. Also, conveniently, it is a place that tracks your analytics. So I'm going to dive into all of that in this video. Buckle up, it's going to be a good one. So first of all, let's discuss the main thing. Did I actually hit this challenge? Did I actually make 300 posts? And I can confirm that I have actually made 375 posts in the last 30 days. Across my Instagram feed, I did 29 posts. So there was one day that I missed, which we'll talk about in a second. I posted 4 full-length YouTube videos alongside 25 YouTube shorts. TikTok was another big platform. I posted 93 TikTok videos over there. I sent out 16 email newsletters. Now, I actually did a lot of list segmenting, so we'll get into that a little bit later in this video. Over on Pinterest, I had 65 pieces of content, and LinkedIn had 26 posts. Now, this brings my total to 258 posts. If I add in my Instagram stories, which I wasn't originally going to do for this challenge, but I did out of curiosity, that would bring me to 375. So I did 117 Instagram stories over the 30-day challenge. And the reason I wasn't originally going to include it is because Instagram stories come very easily to me. I post very consistently over there, so it didn't feel like much of a challenge. But then when I was zooming out and looking at the bigger picture, I was like, no, we're going to include stories. And then I can say that I hit my 300 posts goal. But also part of the reason why I did end up tracking my stories was I did have an increase of views there and an increase of engagement. Speaking of engagement, let's break down some of these platforms and the key metrics. Some of the big wins: TikTok, a 340% increase in views. Pinterest had a 23% increase in impressions and a 34% increase in engagement. On YouTube, I got a whopping 97% more views, and my subscriber growth from the last 30 days was actually 13% higher than usual. So that was like a really key metric to track for me, is not just views and impressions, because obviously if you do the math, like the more you're posting, the more views you're going to have, because arguably you've got more videos to generate more views. But I also wanted to look at my growth in terms of followers and subscribers. Instagram is one that was interesting because it had an increase of reach by 40% if I'm just looking at my organic traffic. So I had some ads running with a partnership that I did with a brand last month that kind of like skewed the results. So it looks like I've had a decrease, but if I take out the ads and any reach from those paid pieces of content, then there is actually a 40% increase. Now, again, this is where I'm a little bit jaded, because obviously Instagram is gonna want us to spend more time on their app, post more content, because that's financially beneficial to them. But when you come into Rella and you actually bring up my stats from the last 30 days or the 30-day challenge, you will actually see that there is a drop in my average engagement. So even though I was posting more, I wasn't necessarily engaging my audience more. And this is why I do, on a normal like season of business, I tend to steer away from 30-day challenges, because I do believe, and like the evidence is right here, that it can lead to a decrease in engagement. And I really believe you're like flooding your audience with a little bit too much content and kind of like spoiling them in a way with too much content. And this is where it is important to dive a little bit deeper into your analytics. For example, on my YouTube channel, the most popular or most viewed piece of content was a short that I shared, and it got over 8,000 views. But when I look at the video closer, it doesn't have very high engagement, and it only brought in 2 new followers to my YouTube page. When I compare that to another video that I filmed during the 30-day challenge, which was a long form YouTube video, this only has 800 views, but it has a pretty solid watch time, and this actually brought me in 18 new subscribers. So again, we're not talking about crazy numbers here, but the point of tracking your analytics is you can get this kind of data and then double down on what's working. And if you just look at the surface level analytics of views, it's really not going to give you a clear picture. Speaking of clear picture, I want to talk about some of my business stats. I've got here a list of website opt-ins, which is essentially people signing up to be on my email list and opting into my freebies and lead magnets. I've got page views, I've got sales, and I also have a little form where people buy from me and they can answer a question of where did you find out about this program. So I went through and like tracked all of the answers to those in the 30-day period. This is where it gets interesting. Website opt-ins were down 12.5%. Page views were down 4%. So again, this kind of is painting that picture. Is a 30-day challenge actually worth it? Sometimes posting more doesn't actually lead to more people seeing your services, your packages, your products, and what it is that you offer. The one thing that did increase though was my sales. My sales increased by 194%. However, when I dive into the metrics of what drove these sales from that little questionnaire on my checkout page, YouTube was a big one. My podcast, which you'll notice I didn't post on at all during this challenge. And then Instagram was kind of like the third runner-up in terms of leading people to purchases. What I think is really important here is I'm looking at the data provided by my website and my social platforms, but I'm also looking at the data my audience is self-identifying. So what they have identified as the platform that made them purchase this program, or the platform that introduced them to me and my services and what I do. And that's really interesting because some people might click and buy through an email, but it wasn't actually the email that convinced them to sign up for your program or purchase your product. It may have been the posts that they saw on Instagram, or in my case, the videos that they saw on YouTube. I hope I'm not getting like too nerdy in here in this video, but this is exactly why it's so important that we track our analytics and that we look at things like this, because you could be thinking that you're making a data-driven decision based on views and impressions and reach on, let's say, Instagram, but really you're not actually seeing the bigger picture of what's generating money in your business. Another interesting metric to note when it comes to my social platforms, I did have a decrease in follower growth. So my follower growth was still it was still going up, but it didn't go up as high as previous periods this year. And it was actually growing at a rate of 4% lower than the previous 30 days before I started this challenge. Another interesting one, although I had that very impressive increase in reach on TikTok, it was not converting to followers. So I think with the amount of followers I lost and the unfollows, I actually only ended up with like a positive of like 10 followers because there were so many people unfollowing. And I think this is something that no one talks about with a 30-day challenge because they're trying to sell you on this whole thing. Like Instagram wants you to post more so they can make more money. And then there's coaches and creators who want you to do that because they think it's gonna like make you more money, or they're trying to sell you into a program or an online course. And no one actually talks about how for a lot of people, it's very common to experience unfollows during a 30-day posting challenge because of the fact that you're posting more and you're kind of like in people's faces more, and it might remind them, oh, I followed Alan a while ago when I was interested in social media management and I'm not so interested in that anymore, so I'm gonna hit unfollow. It's a very normal part of doing these challenges, and you kind of have to prepare yourself mentally for that. Like literally when I would log into Rella, I would force myself some weeks not to look at my analytics and be like, let's just look at the pretty content calendar, Alan. Like, look how organized you are. Look how easy this challenge actually feels compared to when you've tried to do it in the past without the right systems in place. Let's focus on that and let's take that as a win. Let's not look at all those red numbers. Like, let's not look at the unfollows. And it's interesting, when I look at the metrics from week 1, there was this really big uptick in engagement. I had some of my top performing posts all year happen during this first week. And I was totally feeling myself. I was like, yes, I'm killing it. This is going to be the best 30-day challenge. And then it was kind of the halfway point that engagement really dropped down. And this kind of backs my theory that I love daily posting in seasons for specific launches in my business. I think it can be highly beneficial when used at the right time, but I don't think it's a strategy that should be used as like a daily long-standing strategy. At a first glance, you might see that there's a correlation between posting more and making more money, because I did have that 194% increase in sales. But it's also important to note that I had like a promotion running, and I ran it specifically through a segmented audience from my email list. So I was actually only selling to around 150 people. I was doing a promotion for my signature course or signature mentorship program, the Dishing Up Digital School. And the reason I wanted to share this, because again, I could just post on social media and be like, yeah, I posted every day and I got 194% increase in sales, so you should do it too, and you're gonna experience that. When in reality, it's my ecosystem working. It's the ecosystem of posting content on all these platforms. The evergreen results, like when I look at my YouTube analytics, some of the top performing videos were ones that I filmed months ago. There's one here, 30 Steps to Become a Social Media Manager in 30 Days. I've posted that March 17th, 2023, and it was still one of my top performing videos on YouTube for that 30-day challenge period. There's an accumulation of results here, but also what's important to note is those sales, that 194% increase in sales, came from emailing 150 people. And that is so important to share, because so many people think to be making 10K months, to be making 20K months, they need a massive audience. And yeah, I do have like a decent size of following on YouTube and Instagram, but it's not huge. I am not this creator who's 100,000 followers and on every single platform. Like, I am still a small creator. And the fact that the list that I was selling to this month was made up of 150 people, that is just beautiful. And that is the reminder that yes, posting every single day can create this energy. It can bring attention and eyeballs to your business. But at the end of the day, it's about how you position your offer and that marketing messaging. Now, a few other interesting notes that I put down through my analysis here. All of my top 5 Instagram posts with the highest levels of engagement were carousel posts. So that is really interesting. I actually filmed a video a couple of weeks ago all about carousel content. So if you missed that, I'll link it up on a card above. I highly recommend watching it. Another interesting note here, YouTube was the platform that resulted in the most sales. However, it wasn't the platform that I posted the most on. That platform really was TikTok. And then if I included my Instagram stories, Instagram would probably surpass TikTok. Now, let's talk about the pros and cons of this challenge. Number one, I have to mention Rella, and I know they're sponsoring today's video, but honestly, I would not be standing here, or technically I'm sitting, I would not be sitting here filming this video if it wasn't for this software and the organization that it provided me in the back end. Obviously, it's pretty cool that I can say I made a ton of money during this challenge as well and increased my sales by 194%. But the way that I was able to do that was also like jumping on discovery calls with people. I taught a live webinar. I was really engaging and having a lot of conversations with my audience. And I think often creators and business owners make the mistake of getting too caught up in the actual creating of their content, and they spend way too much time on it that they forget that they also need to sell their products or sell their services. And what organizing everything in Rella enabled me to do is batch in advance, feel really like confident in what I was putting out there, and also left me the majority of the day to then actually do the selling and to do the connecting with my audience, to show up on live webinars and do all of that stuff, which was integral to generating more sales in the last 30 days. What I also really liked about this challenge is it helped me get over my fear of posting on certain platforms. LinkedIn, I'm looking at you. Now, I don't have any metrics for LinkedIn because I'm on like a personal free account and it only gives you metrics for the last 7 days, but it definitely did increase because I wasn't really posting there at all. And I think what helped me was I got over this fear of like LinkedIn isn't the place for me, or like, oh, I feel cringy when I post on LinkedIn, because I was like, nope, I have this challenge. I have all my content scheduled in Rella. It's gonna auto post to LinkedIn, so there's no room for me to hesitate and not put the post up. And we're calling it a day at that. And it's really helped break through that barrier. And I'm excited to continue just doing that low lift repurposing and auto posting of my content onto LinkedIn beyond this 30-day challenge. The other pro I want to talk about from this 30-day challenge is I have, number one, so much data to go off. Number two, a bank of content that can be repurposed, and it's all in my Rella. So if I want to repurpose a caption, I can just go to the search bar. I can pop in a keyword, or if I want to do another caption on the Dishing Up Digital School, if you have a certain offer or promotion, you can search, you can pull up the old posts and you can repurpose them, whether it's repurposing the video and turning it into a carousel, whether it's actually just reposting that exact video, or if you're just recycling the caption. There's a lot of options there. And that is the beauty of having a good content management system to enable you to make repurposing easier. Let's talk about the cons of this challenge though. I'm a human, I'm not a robot, and posting for 30 days nonstop is definitely hard work. It's definitely challenging. And I had a couple of moments where there were things going on like in my business that were quite stressful. I was actually closing down one of my content studios during that time, and we had a not so nice landlord who made us repaint our entire studio even though we'd already painted it. Creating content is not the only thing that I do. It's just a small part of my business, and I did find it difficult to like continue posting when I felt like not at 100% in terms of confidence or creativity. And I think that's a very real part of posting every day on social media. I think it's really important to have breaks. And I am a big fan of a posting every second day kind of structure. And I think because I've seen an increase in business and sales, it is tempting to be like, oh, but Ellen, like you could just post every day. Like you could keep doing this. But I just don't think it's sustainable. And I want to really find like a happy medium of posting every day, Monday to Friday, and having my weekends off, because again, I'm not a robot. I do think it's important to recharge, both like energy wise, both creatively wise, and posting every day, I think gets to a certain point where you are going to burn yourself out. The other con that I wrote down is that not all platforms create the same kind of impact. For me, I really value that community and connection, and we need to really evaluate as business owners what our personal individual goals are and what platforms are there to help us achieve those goals. For me, I loved using TikTok as a bit of a playground to test things out. If you look at my TikTok page, you'll see that I sometimes posted multiple videos that I just edited differently, or I used different captions, or I used a different hook, and I used it as my testing playground to see what performed better. And I'd post two similar videos, and the one that performed better, I would then repurpose and use on LinkedIn and Pinterest and Instagram. So I really want to keep up that playfulness with my TikTok and that experimentation, but I do need to remind myself when it comes to what drives sales, when it comes to what's actually building me a beautiful community, TikTok is unfortunately not that platform for me. And when I look at the numbers and I have have things like my YouTube channel showing so much growth and also driving so many sales, it's important to remind myself not to get distracted by, the views and the potential virality on platforms like TikTok, and actually come back to what my goals are. If I actually jump into my Rella board for a second, you guys will see that I still have a lot of ideas in progress. I still have some things that I've filmed but still need editing. And then I have a bunch of TikToks that still are ready to be like repurposed and posted again. I even have, look at this, I have this carousel, which I'm in love with, which I actually didn't get around to posting. And I know it's going to perform really well with my audience. And I think if you're sitting here and you need an injection of energy, of cash, of momentum into your business, a 30-day challenge could be right for you. It could do that. It could be that answer. But I think what I'm seeing from both the data and my feelings is a long-term strategy that posting for 30 days every single day is fun, but it's not something that's going to be happening long-term in my business. I think ultimately we're answering that question of what is the key metric? Is it quality or is it quantity? And if we jump into actually my analytics here, and let's look at Instagram. Oh, it's already got Instagram. If we put in the challenge dates, get metrics, and we take a look at some of the top performing posts. Let's go by impressions to begin with. That's really funny. My sponsored Rella reel is the top of that list. You can see I've got a couple of like engagement/anniversary posts that performed really well engagement wise. This is interesting, like my highest performing carousel. That one has quite a strong engagement percentage as well. Again, I love that Rella tracks that because that is a key metric to see if a post has been successful. But that post, if I click on it, this took some effort to make, right? Like it is a nicely designed post. It also leads to a YouTube video, which expands on the topic more. And I really do think spending a little bit more time making your content is worth it. I think that's what the data is really showing us. What if we go by engagement percentage? Ooh, see, this is interesting. This little carousel. This is a great example of just like putting a little bit more extra effort with your content and what the challenge kind of enabled me to do by like batching and organizing things in advance. This was one that I made in the first 2 days and scheduled out for later in the month. But this is things that make me feel rich as a solopreneur. So you can see it doesn't look too overdone. It's not like an overly stylized or designed graphic, but it's got the nice little cutout. It has the fun arrow and exclamation mark that I've all done in Canva. And like there's a little bit more design and intention while still leaning into the casual aesthetic of carousels that's performing really well at the moment. I think there's an element of that's a really juicy topic and why it's performed well, but also an element of like I put a lot of time, effort, and thought into this content, and ultimately, to me, it's that quality that is driving performance and driving good metrics. It's not just like the quick and dirty, the quick and easy, like reels and 7-second reels that are performing well. Like that kind of stuff might get views, but it's not getting that crucial engagement, which is a key metric that I'm trying to track. Again, you've got a carousel, a short reel. That one I feel like it's cheating because it's an anniversary post. Personal posts are always going to do better. Another graphic post, another carousel. And then this one was interesting because it's got quite low views, but it's got high engagement, and it also generated a lot of DMs, that one post. So it's like, again, we've got to think about what our goals are. Is it growth and exposure? Is it community? Is it sales? And start tracking the analytics and the metrics that are actually going to lead to achieving those goals. If you are wanting to sign up for Rella yourself, I actually have a 30% discount. I'll leave the link in the description box down below. You can use the code Ellen and it will give you 30% off your first 3 months or 30% off your annual subscription, which is a really good deal. If you are somebody wanting to do your own 30-day posting challenge or just wanting to find your version of consistency and being able to show up more or show up on more platforms, I cannot recommend getting a software like Rella to support you throughout this process. Thank you guys so much for watching. Make sure you're subscribed if you enjoyed this video and you'd like to hear more about Instagram, my business, my strategies for growth, and the behind the scenes of building it all. I'll catch you in next week's video. Bye guys.